In today's aviation news recap, there's focus on a new upcoming aircraft order consisting of well over 100 units, Aer Lingus publishing news regarding its A321XLR, and updates surrounding Lufthansa. Let's begin with the Lufthansa Group, who published its first quarter results, which, following strike action, painted a bleaker picture than initially imagined. Based on the first quarter results, Lufthansa says it'll implement cost-cutting measures to ensure that it can remain stable throughout the remainder of 2024 and obviously onwards past that. Lufthansa says seeing poorer results across the first quarter shouldn't necessarily be shocking, as this time of the year typically remains one of the slower periods. However, for the broader group, the quarter was filled with strike action that we know impacted results. During the quarter, however, the group was able to also sort out several of these pay disputes that had previously led to strike action, and is thus looking to move ahead in a more positive manner. In a bid to refocus for the remainder of the year and cut down on operating costs, Lufthansa will reassess several aspects of the business. Firstly, Lufthansa says that the upcoming launch of new projects will be pushed back. Meanwhile, at its core brand, there'll be a focus placed on staffing. Obviously, with the massive increases in wage bills, Lufthansa will need to complete a thorough review into understanding which parts of the business maybe are being overstaffed. After these renegotiated staffing contracts I speak of, your operating costs soared with Lufthansa Group, which saw significant pay rises. When combined with the natural increase in its operating costs that comes with time, this makes for an expensive first quarter that obviously needs rectifying. Lufthansa Group doesn't want this blown out of proportion into the future and then say come back to bite them later down the line. If I take a look at those core first quarter results, Lufthansa Group's revenue did increase 5% yearly to 7.4 billion euros. Meanwhile, yes, they did see an operating loss of 849 million euros. This was up from the 273 million euro loss in the same quarter 1 year prior, but they actually forecasted an impact of around 350 million euros on its earnings thanks to these difficulties across the quarter, namely the operational problems that saw their network hampered for many days. 24 million passengers flew across the group in the first quarter, a 12% increase. Despite the troubles I speak of, the overall amount of passengers flown was a strong point, and Lufthansa expects the remainder of 2024 to be very strong. Lufthansa also saw a 12% capacity increase across the group. Meanwhile, load factors remained at 79.7%, reflecting those high demand levels that we have been seeing. On to the next story, and Aer Lingus's relationship with the A321XLR could be taking a step back, as the airline considers delaying incoming deliveries for the narrowbody, which is now all but confirmed. The island-based company was actually initially slated to be the launch customer of the upcoming A321XLR. This was confirmed at the beginning of 2024. However, those plans will not eventuate. This thanks to the ongoing pay dispute with pilots led by the International Airlines Group, the IAG, who obviously have control over airlines such as Aer Lingus, but this stretches to British Airways and Iberia. Before the delays, Aer Lingus had planned to use the A321XLR as early as the third quarter of this year for service across its transatlantic network. At least for the moment, the A321XLR is expected to be hugely important to service. At least at the moment, the plan for the XLR is to deploy it across key markets in North America. They eyed specifically a Dublin to Minneapolis-St. Paul inaugural for the XLR. However, this will not be possible because of the ongoing concerns regarding pilot pay, contracts, and more. And as a result, the first A321XLR will be headed to another airline within the group. It does honestly feel like deja vu. Take a look at the headlines over the last, say, 1 to 2 years, and a big topic of conversation since we've emerged from the global pandemic has been the pay in our aviation industry. It doesn't really matter which position we are looking at, whether it is your cabin crew, pilots, or ground staff, all have been seeking better terms in pretty much every corner of the world. And in some markets, and with some companies I should say, this has been rectified, whereas for others, it is still up for debate. The Irish Independent reports that Aer Lingus said last week it is on its last legs of deciding on when it can actually paint the first unit. And with delays are expected, the inaugural will be moved elsewhere. After the delays, the US network will see its adjustments and requirements for overall pilots will drop in the short term. Aer Lingus did expect the bulk of its A321XLRs in 2025 anyway, it just now remains uncertain how many will be delivered in 2024, depending on the pay dispute being rectified. The A321XLR, you probably recall, was meant to enter into service in 2023. However, concerns over the integrity of the additional fuel tank necessary to make the range possible and the subsequent fire risks associated basically delayed this. Airbus expects to obtain certification for the game-changing single-aisle jet in the coming months, tentatively with a delivery slated to follow. Boasting a range of 4,700 nautical miles, or that is 8,700 kilometers, it's quickly become a popular choice despite having not flown with customers, and Aer Lingus will look to, as touched on, leverage the aircraft's capabilities to its advantage towards North American markets. Turkish Airlines is the last story, who are considering purchasing more Airbus and or Boeing aircraft as part of growth plans. The carrier, we know, has strong ambitions to achieve a fleet of 800 units and an employee base of 150,000 by 2033. As part of this potential upcoming order, the chairman said that they would look at buying 235 jets. Once awarded, the contract, we know, will be hugely important for the chosen manufacturer, even if there is a split to ensure the lengthy production of the existing programs selected. More and more airlines are now looking to purchase aircraft sooner rather than later in anticipation of the future growth in the 2030s, and as a result, your aircraft programs are beginning to sell out, which means you have to get in sooner rather than later. At Airbus, we know their A320neo family is largely sold out to the beginning of the 2030s, and thanks to this, if you're an airline requiring aircraft now, really your only option is the leasing market. And even there's so much pressure that it's becoming difficult. In the latter stages of 2023, Turkish Airlines ordered up to 355 aircraft from Airbus, including a mix of variants. You can basically consider this new purchase of 235 planes that is being talked about as the second part to that deal, which would bring it to up to 600 aircraft. While the company is very open to purchasing jets from either manufacturer, the long-term effects of the Boeing crisis are certainly playing a role in the overall timing of the decisions. Turkish Airlines has on several occasions now very publicly cited the ongoing production, safety, and thus quality issues at the American manufacturer as a reason why it's held off on purchasing the aircraft now. No doubt ongoing discussions will go over all these core aspects before a decision is made. You can let me know your thoughts on which direction you'd like to see Turkish Airlines head down below in the comments, but that is going to conclude today's aviation news recap. I wanted to thank you very much for tuning into this video. If you made it this far and potentially noticed that I am not necessarily as upbeat, I definitely feel like I'm coming down with something, but never fear, I'll still be here same time tomorrow for your latest industry news.